Greetings, Talvar. What a day it is. Oh, look at that. We got a new detachment. So, how do we feel about it? Put in your comments below, because I'm really intrigued to see what the community feel about this new addition. Because for me, I'm quite excited, to be honest. At the end of the day, we've got some new toys to play with. And we've got some powerful combos that we can actually get out of this new detachment, which is adding an extra bit of flavour to our toolkit, which is everything that you want, right? We were one of the first armies to kind of come out, I suppose, and we only had like 4 detachments. And a lot of armies that are coming out now have like 6 to 8, so we've got another detachment to play with, and it's pretty spicy. And it's bringing me back to the good old days of having some flexibility with our weapons, our upgrades to our commanders, and kind of like a bit of style of the Borkan, isn't it? Extra range, and that extra range is pretty big. So I'm going to go through this new detachment. I'm going to give you my thoughts and feelings towards the slate at the end, because there's a lot of content out there that you guys can kind of watch to talk about the overall slate. And for us, in short, only a few things changed. We got some points reductions on our rampages. So they went from 95 points to 85 for Unit 3 and 170 for 6. And then the Lone Spear went down from 90 to 80. And that was pretty much it. And I think there might have been like an increase on the Tide Wall for some unknown reason. I'm not too sure on that. And I don't really care about the Tide Wall, unfortunately. So that was pretty much it for Tau. And this new detachment, though, let's get straight into it. So what does it do? Well, superior craftsmanship. Add 6 inches to the range characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by Tau Empire models from your army. So Tau Empire, so everything, okay, that has the Tau Empire keyword. You might be thinking, okay, well, range is nice, and there's 2 parts to this that I want to kind of talk about. In the game of 40k, especially on layouts like UKTC and WTC, because the terrain is so tightly packed, that extra range doesn't actually help you in a lot of scenarios. But there's a few scenarios which it will boost the quality of life of how we play. And that is, we don't have to get danger close with some of our units. Looking specifically at Flamer Star Scythes, that would usually have to go in, get within 12, do their flamers, then die. You can actually now sit at 18-inch range, which, again, yes, you can be charged, which is fine, but it's not as easy as it was when you're at 12 inches. And on top of that, that extra 6-inch range makes the Overwatch very potent with a flamer unit, having 18-inch flamers, and with a commander in a unit, that's 10d6. And one of those flamers is going to be a special weapon, which we'll get onto in a second. So that's one unit. Then we look at Star Scythe bursts. 18 to 24. My brain just melted then. 24 inches. So again, being able to shoot from range is really nice. That 24 inches can kind of save you in the same way that it does with the flamer suits. But on top of that, there's a cheeky little thing that most people don't recognise, is that gun drones actually are not 18, they're 20. So actually, a gun drone's a 26-inch range. So that datasheet of Star Scythe is going to massively benefit. Then we look into the fire knife teams. So missiles going from 30 to 36. Okay, you got a bit more reach. Sometimes there is something trying to hide at the back, and they threat range you and go, well, if you're 9 inches away from me and I measure 30 from there, I'm going to stay 30.1. So that extra 6 inches is going to help a little bit, but not massive. But the other variant of a fire knife team with plasmas, that's huge. Going from 18 to 24 means, again, in the same way that I talked about with the Star Scythe, you can stay a little bit further back and still do the damage that you need without getting danger close. And then you look at other units. Breaches, 10-inch range go to 16. That's pretty big. And then you've also got things like Sunforge, Fusion Ghost Keels, going from the Sunforge going from 12 to 18. Again, a little bit of a quality of life in terms of, the positioning rather than having to get danger close. And then you've got the Fusion Collider on the Ghost Keel, which goes from 18 to 24. So melter range within 12. Again, great. And then you've got Shadowsome. So her fusion's going to 24-inch range, means again melter 12. So those are just a few units there that are going to really benefit from the extra 6 inches. And there's one other one as well. In fact, there's quite a bit to cover here in this extra 6-inch range. The Piranhas, 18-inch melt, 18-inch fusions, 9-inch melter, or 8.9, okay? And a fast-moving body, that's pretty big. And then you've obviously got the SMS batteries that you can put on your broadsides, on your tanks, and gaining that extra 6-inch range does matter. So this 6-inch range matters a lot for a lot of our units, so do not underestimate the value of this. So what are the enhancements? Right, well, I saw some of these names and I was like, oh, here we go, the good old days. And they've brought back a couple of classics. Maybe not as potent as they once were, but they're still good. Supernova Launcher, which is an upgrade for an airburst fragmentation projector. Improve the strength by 3, improve the armor penetration and damage by 1. So it goes from strength 3 to strength 6, AP 0 to AP 1, damage 1 to damage 2. So you might be thinking, okay, it's pretty good. It can kill Marines. You know, it's 2 wound, 2 damage. That's pretty good. But the AP sucks because AP 1, I don't ignore cover if, you know, I'm not guiding it. And most of the time, if I'm doing indirect, I'm not. Yeah, but think past what it says on paper. Are there ways of improving the AP? Yes. You've got 1, if you equip him to a Star Scythe team, and you're shooting non-monster vehicles, you get an extra AP. And then there's a stratagem to increase the AP as well, if you wanted to get a bit gung-ho and press some buttons and stuff are hazardous. So it could be, hypothetically, strength 6, AP 3, damage 2, D6 plus blast. Thermoneutronic projector. We all remember the days of the, you know, unkillable enforcer with the flamer of death that works in shooting and combat. It's slightly dialed down, but it is still very potent. So, improve the strength by 2, so it goes from strength 4 to strength 6. Improve the armor penetration and damage by 1. So it basically becomes AP, strength 6, AP 1, damage 2, torrent, ignoring cover. But again, you can improve the AP in a Star Scythe team. You could do a stratagem, so it could be potentially AP 3, ignoring cover, damage 2. And there might be a stratagem to re-roll the amount of shots. Quite potent. Some combos coming your way. Then we've got the Plasma Accelerator Rifle, where Farsight's looking at the new commander walking with a plasma rifle with a bit of jealousy. It's like that scene out of Zoolander when they're on their walkway and they're looking at each other like... So basically like a blue steel. Again, improve the strength by 2. So it goes from strength 8 to strength 10. Gets 2 attacks rather than 1. And the AP and the damage is increased by 1. So strength 10, AP 4, damage 4. And if only there was a way to increase the AP again, you could potentially have it up to AP 5, AP 6. Just get wrecked. And then Fusion Blades. 1 Fusion Blaster, equipped by the bearer. Improve the attacks by 1. Improve the strength by 3. And it has Melter 4. Pretty good. Because what this means for, say, a commander, whether it be an Enforcer or Cold Star, I'm probably going to favour the Cold Star, is that usually you would put a Cold Star in a Sunforge with 4 fusions and then just go. But actually now it allows you to take 3 fusions and a shield generator but still have 4 shots. And with it being strength 12, and then if it's in Sunforge rerolling wounds and damage with Melter 4, that can be quite spicy. So the points of these enhancements are 15 points for the Supernova Launcher, 20 points for the Thermoneutronic Projector, 10 points for the Plasma Accelerator Rifle, and 25 for Fusion Blades. So in my preference would be Fusion Blades number 1, Thermoneutronic Flamer number 2, Supernova, and then the Plasma. In my honest opinion, because I don't think damage 4 really helps, because damage 3 just goes good into Terminators. Could matter in certain scenarios with units that have like 4 wounds, but for me, I like those other three more than the plasma. Oh, so, let's get into the stratagem, shall we? Automated repair drones, amazing. Command phase. So it's in your command phase, you can select a battlesuit unit and recover D3+1 wounds. This used to be attached to a Forge World repair drone unit, but they brought that back and put it into a stratagem. I like it, 1 CP. It can matter because I believe where it's in your command phase, you can recover wounds, so then it would interact with if you need to take battle shock or not. Reactive impact dampeners. I love this stratagem. 1 CP, it's amazing. A lot of units in the game, if led by a character, can have like -1 to wound, and crisis suits burn only like T5. This -1 to wound on crisis suits, and it's Tau Empire battle suits, so it can be used on Ghost Keels, Riptides, Broadsides, Crisis. If their strength is greater than your toughness, -1 to wound. And it can be done shooting all the fight phase as well. So, pretty durable. Pretty durable. It can be used on Farsighted's Sunforged team if they get in combat. It can be done from shooting. So, I like it. 1 CP gives us that durability that we need with some of these somewhat fragile units. Experimental weaponry. This is the money shot. 1 Tau Empire unit until the end of the phase. Each time you roll 1 or more dice to determine the number of attacks made with a weapon equipped by a model in your unit, you can re-roll the results. So nice. So here's a Star Scythe unit with 66 flamers, and I happen to have my Enforcer with 4 flamers, and one of them being the thermoelectronic projector. So I'm doing 9d6, strength 4, AP1, ignoring cover, because it's a Star Scythe unit, as long as it's not overwatching something that's like a monster or vehicle. Then my Enforcer's doing his last flamer, which is strength 6, AP2, damage 2. And you can just re-roll the amount of shots. And if you happen to have, and that's just like an Overwatch, for example, if it's in your shooting phase, you could suddenly make them hazardous if you wanted to, and this is the next stratagem, and you can improve the strength and AP, so they could be AP2, and the thermoelectronic flamer could be AP3. That just point-click deletes something. So I like it. Could also be used, experimental weapon, in a Storm Surge. It's got 4d6 cluster rocket system. It's got the d6 plus 1 or 3 blast thing. What's it called? The pulse driver. Let me just double check the data sheet. Storm Surge. And I know the Storm Surge is a little bit too expensive still, but I'm giving you the hypotheticals of what these stratagems can be used on, because the Storm Surge isn't a battle suit, so it can't. Unfortunately, it's a big walking battle suit, but it's not a battle suit, so it can't regain wounds. It can't do the -1 to wound. But the experimental weaponry says Tau Empire unit, and so the cluster rockets, like I said, have 4d6 shots, strength 5, AP01 damage, blast heavy. The pulse driver cannon is d6 plus 3, strength 12, AP33 damage. And again, it could use the other stratagems that are going to be increasing, like lethal or sustained, or the strength and AP. So that could be quite nice, to be honest. But mainly, you're kind of going to want to use these like offensive stratagems on your crisis suits. That's what they're designed to do. Moving on to experimental ammunition. Your shooting phase. 1 Tau Empire unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Select one of the following to play until the end of the phase. So one of the following. So you can either have improve the strength of ranged weapons by 1, or improve the strength and armor penetration of ranged weapons, and those weapons have the hazardous ability. It says here that you cannot target the same unit with the experimental ammunition and the threat assessment analyzer stratagems in the same phase, because this would just be broken. So if you just want an extra pip of strength, cool. You don't take any wounds on hazardous. But if you want to just kind of click the button and go for it, maybe you're in a predicament where you just need to do the damage and you're going to have to accept some losses. So you can have an extra AP and an extra strength. So let's talk about that. So what units could we use this on? So for me, a breacher unit could be really good to suddenly go to strength 7, AP 2, hazardous. But usually when a breacher team goes out there, it's not returning. It's not coming home. It does the damage, it's kind of one and done. So you could just give it an extra strength, extra AP. So strength 7, AP 2, rerolling wounds if they're on objective, and if you have a cadre in the unit, that's 30 shots. If we look at our crisis suits, then Fire Knife team, if you really wanted to push up the strength and AP, you could make them strength 9, AP 4, or just strength 9 if you don't need the AP without taking hazardous. That can help the plasma team deal with things like rhinos or T9 transports, or anything that's T8, you could go to from winning on 4s to winning on 3s. A good efficiency. Missile Fire Knives, strength 8, could go to AP 2, hazardous. Yes, I know you might lose a suit, but you could push the button and basically just go for mass efficiency. And then you've got things like Sunforge going up to strength 10. And if you had, for example, Farsight in the unit, that'll be strength 10 plus 1 to wound, which is effectively just giving you what Retcad have. Yes, you don't really need the extra AP, but sometimes if you wanted to just go, I'm AP 5, I just don't want you having a 6-up save, then you could do hazardous. But for me, that extra strength with a Sunforge is really good. Experimental ammunition. And then you've got other units like, for example, broadsides. Going from strength 12 with the rails to strength 13. High yield missiles, going from strength 7 to strength 8, means you're winning Marines on 2s with twin linked. And then I'm going to get onto a spicy thing, but broadsides love these two stratagems. And I want you to, in the back of your head, think why. And assume that you're doing the one that gives you both, so you gain the hazardous ability. Have a think. And I'll get to it later, because I've written down some big wins and some tactics in play and warnings as well. So that's just a few. And then another one that could really benefit from experimental ammunition is piranhas. So piranhas going from strength 9 to strength 10 with their fusions. The gun drones. Because piranhas, again, are just going to kind of go in, do their thing, and probably die in the next turn. So piranhas love this stratagem. And then we've got the next one, Threat Assessment Analyzer. 1 CP again, choose one of the following. Sustain hits 1 or lethal hits. And if you want both, you get both, but you have hazardous. I mean, sustain and lethal? Okay, so let's look at what units would really want sustain and lethal. And I mean really want them. Fire Knives. Because you 4 rerolls to hit if you're targeting something at full starting strength. A missile unit with a commander with 4 missiles is doing 20 missile shots at sustained and lethal. Yes, you have hazardous. Okay, so it's 2, 4, 6, 10 hazardous rolls. Statistically, you fail 1. And you just got sustained and lethals. You can't combine it, unfortunately, with the other stratagem that I went through with the extra strength and AP, because that would make that unit absolutely bonkers. But lethal and sustained, with full rerolls to hit, when you're targeting something at full starting strength, that's awesome. And then you can apply the same with plasmas. So sustained, lethal, AP3, flat 3, just point, click, kill. So you want to kind of have these units like the missile fire knife with a missile commander, and then the plasma with a plasma commander. So then you can just go, here's 10 plasma shots with sustained and lethal and 4 rerolls to hit. Same with the missiles. Those are 2 really interesting, powerful combos that you can do. Or you could just do it on a big unit of star scythe bursts and just go ham with sustained and lethals and just go cool. You've got so many combos that you can do with this. You could even do a missile broadside team going, oh, I'll have sustained and lethals, thanks. Perfect. So I've got, and you could even potentially mess around with a unit of 3. I know you pay the points for like 300 points for 3 rather than 180 for 2, but still, hear me out. You're going to have the high yield missiles. You're going to have the SMS, the missile drones. So just have a think about how many shots you're getting with that unit. So the broadside team will be doing, you've got 6. If you just do a unit of like 3, that'll be 18 strength 7 AP 1 2 damage with lethals sustained, rerolling 1s to hit because you'll either have Shadow Sun nearby or you'll have the guided by the stealth suits. Then it's twin linked. Then you've got 12 missile drone shots with sustained, lethal, AP1, damage 2, rerolling 1s to hit, 1s to wound because they're not twin linked. Then you've got 4, 8, 12 SMS, lethal, sustained, twin linked. Point click, just go. So you can absolutely throw down the absolute weight of firepower that would just wreck something in front of you. So, like I said, look into your data sheets. Look at certain units that maybe you haven't pulled off the shelf. I know I haven't used my missile broadsides in a while, but I'm seriously looking at them. You know, you've got combos that lethals and sustain can just push the efficiency up from the fire knives through the roof, and even Sunforge as well. If you had Sunforge team and you need to go into, say, something with an invuln, you're like, you know what? I'm doing sustained and lethals. I've got the 10 fusion shots in total. I'll get, with reroll 1s, and we'll get 1, maybe 2. Might get a little bit lucky. They're lethals and sustained, so they go back in, and then I'm rerolling the wounds and rerolling the damage. And I've got this dude with the special fusion that's going to absolutely wreck you with Melt 4. Okay, I take some hazardous. Fine. I'll take 9 hazardous tests. I fail 1. I've taken 3 wounds. And then I could always heal myself later if I want. And then finally, this one is Chef's Kiss. Neuro Web System Jammer. Your opponent's shooting phase. Just after an enemy unit has selected its target, 1 crisis unit from your army. Loan up 18. Yes! So, think about this. You've got 2 parts of the board. The mid-range and then the long-range. So you could have like a missile fire knife unit out in the open, shoot something and goes, I'm on an objective as well. Cool, right, you're going to shoot me, loan up. And then you've got another crisis suit that's gone into brawl in the mid-board, and they're like, right, I'm going to have to go and kill this. Then you can do the -1 to wound. You could then, maybe if you had an enforcer with it, it's AOC, cover, -1 to wound. There's so many layers that you can put into place that actually make your crisis suits durable. And I think this is something that you have to, this particular strategy in the NeuroWeb System Jammer, you have to build it into your game plan, because a lot of the times you'll find that with your crisis suits, you're having to hide behind terrain, and that takes away movement because you're not going through walls, so on and so forth. And you have to deploy defensively, because if you don't go first, they get shot. You can actually just deploy a crisis team on the line and go, yeah, it's staying there. And I've measured your threat ranges. You can't get within 18, so if you want to shoot me, I'll just loan up. And then I'm not hindered by terrain, and I can just go as the crow flies. So if you had a Cold Star with a Sunforge team deployed on the line going, all right, you want to bring your vehicles out, you can't shoot me because I loan up 18, and then I'm just going to yeet forward and do the damage. It gives you plays with a crisis team that actually has quantity. And the other thing that you could do, which I'm definitely going to look at, is the Flamer Starside team with the Enforcer, going on an objective or in the mid-board and going, yeah, I'm going to just hold down this flank, and anything that comes out I'm going to overwatch, and if you try and shoot me from range, I'm going to basically loan up 18. And you will have to come and deal with this on my terms. You come out of your hidey hole in the terrain, I'll overwatch you. You try and charge me from behind the wall, well, I've pre-measured that, and it's going to be near enough an impossible charge, or I've screened you. You want to shoot me from range because you don't like having to stay behind a wall? Well, unlucky, son, I'm going to loan up 18. Then you could do things like rapid ingress this unit. When something's trying to charge something on an objective, and you go, hi, I'm here, I've rapid ingress for free with the stealth suits, and now I'm going to overwatch you, and then I'm going to move on to this objective, and now it's mine, and you can't shoot me from range because I'm loaded up 18. So many tricks, guys. I'm loving it. So, I've written down a few big wins here, just to summarise, so I'm going to run you through it. Big wins for me in this detachment: Breacher plus the Cadre. So Breacher and a Delphish and a Cadre can just suddenly be going out, 30 shots, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, and you can then do one of these stratagems that you want. You could do the sustained and lethal, because to be honest with you, you're sending them out to their death, but might as well give them the best chance of killing whatever they want to kill. Lethal, sustained, you can even move them out, grenade, yeah, depends on your CP, but you could do lethal, sustained, or if you don't need the lethal sustained, you can just do extra strength or extra strength and AP, and you can just go point click dead. So Breacher Delphish combo with the Cadre is going to be really good, because the Cadre gives you the extra shots, and it also applies to things like your gun drones. So you're going to have 30 shots from the Breachers, then you're going to have a gun drone Guardian drone, so that's 2 shots from the gun drone that obviously benefits from whatever you're choosing with the lethal sustained, and it's twin linked. Then you've got the Cadre Fireblade with his 3 shots himself, and his 2 gun drones. So his 2 gun drones will have 4 shots, 6 shots, sorry, and then the other gun drone will have 3 shots because it's the extra shot from the Cadre. So his gun drones are 6 shots, but they also benefit from his ability, which is the crack shot. If you roll 6 to wound, they're AP 3, but again, lethal, sustained. I know that would the lethals would skip that step for the extra AP, but the sustained are added back into the pot. So that's one really good combo. I've put down here the fire knife suits of all variants, the plasmas and the missiles, because of their inbuilt ability to reroll all failed hits against a target that's at its full starting strength, or reroll 1s if it is below starting strength, and they ignore modifiers. So maximum efficiency, they're going to love this stratagem for lethals and sustained. Starscythe Flamer suits. As we said, the experimental weaponry with re-rolling the results of random weapons is super powerful, especially when you combine it with the thermonucleonic flamer. I would probably put an enforcer with the thermonucleonic flamer and the Starscythe Flamers for AOC and extra protection, with the potential of doing -1 to wound. Broadsides, both variants. Remember when I asked you to think about why broadsides are really good for this lethal and sustained? Their rule, hardened advanced armor, feel no pain 4+ against mortal wounds. They don't care about hazardous. They'll just go, yeah, I'm having sustained and lethal, or I'm having the extra strength and AP. Okay, so if a broadside team had all the guns, and this is something to remember, guys, make sure you're getting this right, because it actually, I can see tile players accidentally getting this wrong. Remember, all of your drones count as a weapon equipped by the bearer. So when you do the hazardous, you have to factor in that your gun drones or your missile drones or any drones that have got shooting is another hazardous role. So for example, a broadside team, let's just use a unit of 3, like I mentioned before, has got 3 of the high yield missiles, so that's 3 hazardous tests. It's got 3 sets of SMS, so that is 6. And it's got 6 more missile drones, so that's 12. So you roll 12 hazardous tests, you'll roll 2 1s, but then that's 6 mortals, you got 4 up feel no pain, you take 3. So the broadsides can eat that mortal wounds that they're taking from hazardous because they got a 4 up feel no pain. So broadsides, amazing, and do not forget about this, because that can absolutely make them spike in terms of their output, and they're not really having any downsides because they've got a 4 up feel no pain against the hazardous. Ghost Kills, Fusion Collider. Because the Fusion Collider has been increased in range, you can use your Ghost Kills as anti-tank. And this is really, really good, because you can actually just have them being super annoying. If they thought Ghost Kills were hard to kill before this detachment, then they're even harder to kill, because you can recover the goddamn thing by D3+1, and you can make it -1 to wound in shooting or combat. Ghost Kill with 2 blanks, stealth, lone up, T8, 2 up save, -1 to wound for a CP, recover D3+1 for a CP. Yes, please. So the Ghost Kills can actually be a really durable piece that can then just go and hunt transports or keep the enemy vehicles honest, because you're 24-inch range now, and you can move 10 and then get within 12 comfortably, and then you're doing Melter. So Ghost Kill Fusion Colliders, big wins. And in the same way, Shadow Sun's a big win as well, because Shadow Sun allows you to potentially get a CP back on a 5+ if a stratagem is spent within 6 inches of her. Now remember, even if you do a strat for free, like Farsight, it's still using a stratagem, so you would be able to roll a dice on a 5+, you gain 1 back. If you Rapid Ingress with Stealth Suits, you're still using Rapid Ingress. You get an opportunity to get a stratagem back on a 5+. So the last unit that's a big win for me is units of 2 to 3 piranhas, because you can just go, my alpha strike is horrendous, and boom, I'm a one-shot wonder, done. I've made sure that thing dies, and then I die in return, but it takes a lot for the enemy to come and deal with the piranhas. They cannot do the -1 to wound because they're not a battle suit, but for me, like, the piranhas for the points cost are really good. Just another thing to note as well, this experimental ammunition and the threat assessment analyzer just says Tau Empire units, so you can actually do it on Kroot or Vespid, but obviously it's shooting, not in combat. Vespid units of 10 could be a bit spicy, but obviously you're going to want to use it on your crisis suits, in all honesty. But the other funny combo that we were chatting about was a unit of Farstalkers could have precision, lethal, sustained. Or sustained, because they have lethals anyway against that target, and precision, you could just give it a sustained as well. Might kill a Technomancer, bit cute, but you're probably not wanting to spend a CP on that. That's just a funny little combo. Warning about this detachment. So we talked about these stratagems are really powerful. There's lots of combinations that you can do, but you need the CP to do it. And your CP management is going to be very crucial. In fact, if you do not manage your CP, this detachment kind of folds a little bit. So I've already mentioned 2 ways. In order of preference, Farsight and Shadow Sun. I don't like ethereals, but I have to admit that having ethereals in this detachment would help you massively. And remember, ethereals can guide now because they've got the greater good keyword. So any ways of you putting more CP in your pocket is going to help you with this detachment, because there's a lot of stratagems that you're going to want to use all the time. In your opponent's turn, you're going to want to loan up crisis team, you're going to want to do -1 to wound, and then in your turn, you're at least going to be wanting to use one of those, if not both. Experimental ammunition and threat analyzer, that's 2 CP already, so that's 4 CP. So you're not going to be able to do it all. And then I've not even touched on the re-rolling the amount of shots with your flamers, repairing a ghost kill, riptide, broadsides, you name it. So you're going to want to use all these stratagems because they're all good, but you're going to need the CP. So maybe instead of Shadow Sun and Farsight, you take 2 ethereals, just to give yourself a better odds, 75% chance, because it's only a 50-50. So taking 2 of them would allow you to at least get a CP back on a 75% chance. And you're probably thinking, well, Kyle, you've talked a lot about like ghost kills and broadsides and crisis suits, and you've not mentioned riptides. Yeah, I haven't. There's a reason. My only thing that I'm thinking about riptides here is that a riptide could be more durable because you can do -1 to wound and you can recover it. But what's more durable than a riptide? Well, a ghost kill. And if I'm honest with you, when you look at the 2 offensive strats, well, the experimental ammunition and the threat assessment analyzer, the riptide's only got 6 shots. So why would I spend this stratagem to maybe get 1 lethal and 1 sustain with its 6 shots with its ion, when if I do it on a crisis team, I can get a hell of a lot more than 1 sustain and 1 lethal? Yes, it has had a hazardous built in, so it doesn't really care about that part. But for me, I just think for the points cost of crisis suits and the commanders, that's where you should be sinking your points. And if you're wanting durable big robots, then you just take ghost kills, because they've had a glow up in this detachment. So tactics and plays, I've kind of gone through this whilst I've been going through the detachment, but just as a quick kind of like rundown: low knock crisis suit unit, unkillable ghost kills, durable crisis teams, especially if you put an enforcer with them, because then they'll be getting cover if you position them correctly. They'll have armor of contempt while leading the unit from ranged. Then they could be -1 to wound. And then also you potentially just got the lone upping thing as well. So really durable crisis bricks, especially when you put in the enforcer. And he's not as bad now because you can extend the range of his plasmas from 18 to 24, and his missiles usually take an enforcer with missiles because he can play the long range game. And then, like I mentioned, lethal and sustain with broadsides because they get the 4+ against mortals, 4+ penal pain. So we are going to be doing, over in the Puretide program tonight, we're going to be doing a call all together. I did schedule it for Friday, assuming that the data slate and everything was going to land on Thursday, but obviously it's come a day early. So we're going to be doing the call tonight in Discord, so if you want to come and join, it is available for Pathfinder, Chassepray, and Chassel. So if you do subscribe at whatever level, you can come and join us and have a live discussion with us. We did one at lunchtime today just to kind of get our initial thoughts and feelings. And then obviously I've been working like an absolute dog with my content recently. There's so much available to you, and it's just, I'm adding more and more and more. I think already there's over, I'd say, including the live calls and the recorded material that I've uploaded for all different tiers, there's probably over at least like 30 hours, right? It's crazy. And I'm also then planning to do way more videos by probably this time next month. I'll have added probably like over 120 videos plus. So the content is coming in thick and fast, and I'd love for you to come and join and find out what it's all about. Link is in below in the description as per usual. And also, guys, do me a massive solid: like, subscribe, comment. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know how you feel about this new detachment. Specifically, are you excited? Do you think it's got the competitive legs that it needs? Have you started to think about any combos yourself that you want to share with a wider audience? Okay? Or maybe, are you not positive about it? Were you expecting something a bit more? Like, I just want you guys to be able to be vocal and show us as a community that, like, actually, I like it, I don't. And for me, I think the last thing I want to touch on, like I said at the beginning of the call, was the balanced data slate. So all I wanted this time around was a quality of life change. I wasn't really bothered about being made cheaper because I feel that we're already kind of cheap as well. A couple of things I'd like to go down, like Far Stalkers and Storm Surges, right? But outside of that, I was quite happy with our points costs. I am a little bit frustrated on the perspective from our newer players that are maybe joining, because the guiding mechanic in terms of how it works is quite convoluted. It's quite hard for a newer player or a beginner to pick up, and even for us like veterans, it's taken a long time to fully optimize the way that we have to line things up and guide. So I would have liked to see the guiding mechanic change in the future, whether that's just removing the ballistic skill modifier when you split fire, or just making it a bit easier to understand, like this unit points at that unit, everything else can get an extra ballistic skill, and just make us hit on threes easier. But I can see that Tau have always been quite hard to balance because we've been quite potent in the past, and they're probably a little bit afraid to make it too busted, and that's something I don't want. I don't want Tau to suddenly be the bee's knees and every Tom, Dick and Harry picks up Tau and then we get nerfed, because that is a bad place to be. Look at Sisters when they were really powerful and then they've just been non-existent for like the last 3 months, which it hurts me to see armies being put in the bin, and I never want that to happen to our beloved faction. So everything with a fine balance, and I love the fact that we've been given, you know, these new detachments and new ways to play. So thank you, Josh, GW team. I know it's not just Josh. Thank you for the work you're doing, and I'd just like to have a little bit more quality of life changes for the future. And you've done just that. You give us the extra AP for the retaliation within 9 rather than within 6, and obviously you're giving these new detachments. So it's looking good for the future. FYI, what I maybe like to see is like maybe change the movement characteristics of rampagers, because when they were created, they were cavalry, or the cavalry, and they were movement 7, and other cavalry pieces out there like movement 10 or 12. And yes, we have scout, but because we can't interact through terrain and we're not beasts, it hurts us. So I'd love to see more combat element within Tau to kind of balance out a mono phase army. And what you've done with the auxiliary card is allowed us to participate in combat, but still we're hindered by terrain. And it all depends on what terrain formats we're playing on, whether it's successful or not. So I'd like to see a little bit more on the combat side of things. I love Rampages, they're cool models. And then I've mentioned about the split firing thing. So that's the only thing that's on my wish list. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. Remember, like, subscribe, do all the usual, help the YouTube algorithm. And I'm looking forward to hearing from yourself or from me. Enjoy the rest of your days, and I will speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye now.